for joining today. We're very excited to have you here, and we got a lot of good news and exciting news to share with you. And especially for those of you who didn't get a chance to attend TDX, we announced many new capabilities. And so we're looking forward to have you here today. And remember that we're going to be having a Q&A session. So just as the presentations are going, feel free to add those questions, and then we're going to have a dedicated time to go over them. So for the agenda today, and actually the team that's here, we've got the different product managers at Copado, and myself, David Venegas, Product Marketing Director, and also we've got Ankita Sharma, who's Senior Product Manager, working with the AI capabilities. We also got Ivan Coppola, Senior Product Manager, focused on DevOps automation and the CI/CD pipelines. And additionally, we've got Cynthia Moreno, Product Manager for robotic testing capabilities. So today we're going to go ahead and do an overview of the new capabilities. And what we're going to do is go over how Copado supports Agentforce and what are all the different capabilities that you can use through all the different stages of DevOps. And finally, we're going to finish off with our Q&A. All right, and for those of you on the call who are new to Copado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you the Copado DevOps platform. And the Copado DevOps platform is designed to make release days obsolete by enabling your teams to manage the 5 phases of DevOps that you can see here in this image, from plan, build, test, release, and operate. And this is because you can leverage Copado to start planning your user stories and your sprints with our agile capabilities. You can also build features with our code generation and version control automation, and even do testing with explorations and automated scripts. Additionally, you can also do releases with our automated deployments. And finally, you can operate your environment pipelines and your applications by creating training documentation for end users with AI. Now, all this is translated to our customers by seeing deployment speeds increasing by 500% or 5 times, and also increasing the release frequency by 9 times, all while maintaining the highest quality standards. And Copado exists within the heart of the Salesforce platform. And what this means is that the Copado platform is available within the Salesforce interface and supports all your deployment and testing needs across all the Salesforce clouds and across multiple environments that you may have in your pipeline. And it's also integrated with version control tools like GitHub and agile planning providers like Jira. So that's a quick overview of Copado. And we announced many new capabilities at TDX in San Francisco, starting with the ability of Copado to support Agentforce. And well, as you may know, Agentforce was the main topic at TDX, and it made sense because it's a new capability from Salesforce to transform customer experiences and also empower internal teams to access information quickly and automate many tasks, especially related to sales and service. But here's the challenge. Managing AI agents at scale requires a new approach to DevOps, and that's where Copado comes in. We're the industry-first comprehensive DevOps solution that's ready for Agentforce. And we've designed our capabilities to ensure that your AI agents are reliable and provide consistent responses and actions to users. So how are users interacting with Agentforce agents? For those of you who haven't used Agentforce before, you know that there's a Trailhead module available at Salesforce that actually walks you through the process of creating an agent and using it. So Agentforce agents are embedded within the Salesforce application, and users can interact with it to access information of records on your Salesforce instance, or also to automate actions. And if you expose this agent on your website, your customers can also interact with agents to get access to order information that they may have pending, or even to execute a return of an order. Now, this is great innovation. And what this means is that Salesforce is also providing low-code tools so that you can build these agents. And so with these low-code tools, you can define what this agent is about, what are the instructions. You can also define what type of actions these agents can execute. For example, which Apex classes or flows need to be run by this agent, for example, to return an order for you. Now, when you think about it, you still have all the metadata components that you need to build Salesforce applications and automations, like flows and Apex classes. And the agents introduce a new layer on top of making the user experience much easier. Now, with Agentforce agents, we introduce a new set of metadata components that you need to be aware of so that you can effectively commit them in version control and deploy them through your pipeline. Now, additionally, Agentforce actions can connect to Data Cloud to tap into all the different data pipelines and data integrations that you may have configured already. Now, for those of you who have done deployments and releases with Data Cloud, you may be aware that there's a lot of manual steps that need to be configured. And additionally, you can see in this diagram on the right side, there's a lot of dependencies between all these components. So this introduces a new area that for those of you who are either you're an admin, a developer, a release manager, or a tester, you need to know that all these components are at play here when you configure agents. So what's important here is that Copado is here to enable you to build and deploy Agentforce agents. And that means through the 5 stages of DevOps, from plan, build, test, release, to operate. And this means that everybody of the team can collaborate together, leveraging the Copado capabilities to effectively and successfully release agents and test them and make sure that they're reliable and consistent. Now, with Copado capabilities, you can start by planning and creating user stories for your agents and defining what are the instructions that they need to have to perform the actions that you need them to do for your users. And you can use Copado AI platform to create this different set of instructions and even help you create the actions and the flows that are needed for this agent. Additionally, once you have your agent that you've built on your sandbox, you can also deploy it through the Copado user stories through the pipeline. And so you can commit your agent components, and so you can have them on your version control and deploy them to the next stage in the pipeline. And then once it reaches the next stage, they can also be tested seamlessly with our Copado robotics capability. And this is key to make sure that the responses are consistent across many user interactions and that the actions are being executed successfully and the way you expect them to be executed. Now, what we're going to look at today through the different presentations from the product team is going to talk about the use case of Coral Cloud Resort. Coral Cloud Resort is a customer that has a Salesforce implementation, and they're focused on travel and hospitality. And they're offering different destination activities with exceptional customer service. Now, they heard about Agentforce, and they have at the same time, they have a busy season coming up. So they need to upscale their service operations. And they need to make sure to scale and be there 24/7, available for customers. And for this, they have started a project to roll out Agentforce internally. And as part of this initiative, they've developed a service agent, which is already in UAT, and it's undergoing some refinements to ensure that it's working properly. So what we're going to see in the next presentations from the product team is how the team is collaborating using Copado capabilities to roll out this Agentforce agent. And at the same time, we'll be showing you the new capabilities that Copado has announced at Salesforce TDX in San Francisco. So even though we do a lot of these things for Agentforce, from planning, building, testing, releasing, and operating, what we're going to focus today is more on the planning, testing, and deployment phase, which already contain a lot of capabilities within our platform. All right. So Ankita, take it away.
Right. Thank you, David. That was great, and a great segue to start with the demo. But before that, I want to introduce our new features which we introduced in the TDX. So over the years, we have seen, that there are areas wherein the customers still face challenges, even the customers using Copado, struggling with understanding the existing metadata, trying to figure out the existing business logics, like where the account field is being updated across the org, or spending hours digging into the setup of Flow Builder or Apex triggers, and much more. And it is not just developers who spends hours troubleshooting the issues, also analysts struggling to avoid creating duplicate functionalities, identifying the issues, or reusing the existing functionality, and keeping the documentations up to date, and much more. And we understand that it is important to know your metadata, to know what existed before making any new changes, to know how those new changes may impact the existing metadata or existing functionality. So how the flow is working, or how those triggers working, which updates the opportunity for fields, or a lot more. So imagine if you were able to understand the existing metadata by asking questions in natural language, and let someone else do the digging, looking into the dependencies, and present you with their analysis. And not just that, also working with you to provide real-time code suggestions, or diagnosing errors, or creating Apex class, or formulas, or validation rules, and all that with your actual metadata. And that is the very capability we have introduced via our metadata insight with our build agent, which we recently launched in TDX, as David mentioned. And we'll see in a bit how Coded Cloud uses it to resolve their issues much faster. But before that, I want to highlight another challenge which we have seen our customers facing, and that is working in silos, especially planning in silos, or context switching from one application to another to gather all the information. And it does impact the quality of the outcomes. For instance, planning is a crucial element which defines how smooth the execution will be. And part of planning also include your feature creation, converting your requirements into user stories, with all that important details like functional specs, technical specs, acceptance criteria, organizing sprints, assigning user stories, creating release notes, documentations, and a lot more. And on top of it, at times, we also struggle to create those features or user stories every time from scratch. And at times, we miss out on the details and overlook adding a requirement change. So doing all that without the collaboration with other team members even increases the probability of losing important aspects. So to address these two challenges, we have introduced Copado DevOps agent on Slack, helping our teams plan, collaborate, and refine solutions seamlessly. Also checking the deployment status or accessing valuable pipeline insights without leaving the Slack. Since teams already engage in the discussions on platforms like Slack, Microsoft Teams, the plan agent ensures that the planning happens where the conversations are already taking place. With real-time collaboration and feedback, teams can streamline solutioning, reduce rework, accelerate execution, all without switching to other tools. And as David mentioned, on the Coded Cloud, which developed a new service agent, which is in UAT and is not working very well. And it is critical to identify and resolve the issue. So let's dive into the demo. So Cynthia reached out to me on Slack, which is our Coral Cloud's collaborative tool, that after testing the service agent in UAT, it's not working as expected. It's not responding to our guest messages. And since it is a critical project for us, I ensure her that I'll look into it and fix it ASAP and then keep her updated. So the next thing, what I do is I check the Salesforce instance, look at how the service agent was created, look at the actions, the flows, see everything if it's correctly enabled or active, and maybe ask our engineering team to troubleshoot. Or I can go to my workspace in Copado AI platform, which can access my project information and user stories, can access my actual metadata from UAT, and simply ask the build agent, why is my service agent not responding? And now I can just simply sit back and let my agent do the analysis. And after analyzing, it recommends that I should check my route to ESA flow, check its configuration, and see if it's activated. Fair enough. So I follow the recommendations and jump to the Salesforce instance, found my flow there. I edit its components with the right values, assign it to the right agent, which in this case is service agent, save the latest changes and activate it. But my changes are still in dev, even after activating and making sure the flow is working correctly. So how do I move it to UAT? Because I know Cynthia is waiting to test it in UAT. So I come back to Slack. In the same channel where I interacted with Cynthia, invoke my plan agent, asking it to create a user story for me from the requirements I mentioned, telling it about the issues, the changes I made in the flow. And once the user story is created, now I'm tagging Ivan, who's our release manager, to look into the user story and move the changes to UAT. And when I say creating the user story, it's actually creating a user story record for me back in Salesforce instance in Copado plan with all the details like functional specs, technical specs, acceptance criteria, my agile information, including the changes I made. All this without me even adding a word. And this interaction which you see here, once it is posted, it is visible to all the team members within this channel. So Cynthia will know that there is a user story now, which is with Ivan, our release manager. So, and Ivan, since you are notified about my user story, I give it to you from here. But before that, just a quick reminder, please, we'll be posting the polls throughout, so please take a moment to respond. And passing it to you, Ivan.
Awesome. Thank you, Keta. Hi, everybody. Ivan here. So I would like to start with a quick overview of the common CI/CD challenges that Salesforce team at Coral Cloud face every day. First, setting up pipelines and maintaining pipelines across multiple Salesforce orgs is time-consuming and challenging. Release managers spend a lot of hours setting up repos, authenticating orgs, initializing branches, and more. It's also hard for them to get a clear view of the entire pipeline, knowing what's moving, what's waiting, what's stuck, and why it's a constant challenge for them. And as the team grows, so does complexity. So David mentioned that there's a busy season coming up. Managing all the changes and coordinating and collaborating with a few orgs can be simple, but for large enterprise projects, it gets complicated. So everything works differently, and it's hard also to keep track of what is going on across the board. All of this leads to an increased manual effort. So release managers having to manually track changes, not knowing what needs to be moved, long hours firefighting issues, and coordinating fixes late at night. And all of this causes delays, jeopardizing, the project releases, and really frustrates and wears out the people working on the projects. So now let's see how Coral Cloud overcomes some of these challenges with Copado. And let's take care of that flow that Ankita just created. Okay, so here I am in Copado CI/CD. This is the list of all the user stories that belong to the service project I'm working with. And let's select the one that Ankita just created. If we go and review the functional specifications, we see that based on these specs, I see that the flow that assigns a user request to the service agent is not working well. So I need to commit and move the route to ESA flow that Ankita just modified. So let's get into that. I will go now into the commit page where I can quickly select the components that I need. And as we can see here, Copado shows me all the recent changes that I made in this org, which includes other agent-related metadata components, such as the Shen AI Planner. This represents the agent, which in our case is an agent that helps guests make reservations, update bookings, and more. We have the Shen AI plugin as well. This one represents the topics, which you can think about categories of actions that the agent can perform. This includes the scope and distractions the agent should follow. And finally, the Shen AI function here. So this represents the technical task the agent is allowed to perform. For example, any flows or Apex classes to read or manipulate data. So all of these components, I already committed them in another user story that is waiting in the UAT environment. For this user story, what I will do now is just select the flow that Ankita affects in the one so that the agent start working properly. So let's select that and commit changes. All right. So now that my commit is running and is done, all I have to do, and I see here that I have the route to ESA flow already assigned to my user story. All I have to do next is to flag the ready to promote field on the user story so that the release manager can pick it up quickly on the pipeline manager. All right. So let's jump into the next part here. Let's now see how the release manager can pick up the user story from the pipeline manager and move it with Copado. Now, what is important to keep in mind here is that the release manager or release managers need visibility into what's moving, what's waiting, and what's stuck in their pipelines. And they need to know that fast. So I'm very excited to show you the new revamped pipeline manager for short format pipelines, which make all of this easy. It's faster, it's more intuitive, and it's designed to make release managers more productive. It really highlights what matters the most, so they can quickly unblock issues, they can release with confidence, and they can avoid bottlenecks. All right, so let me start here with some new utilities that we have introduced to boost productivity. For example, you can drag the canvas around, you can zoom in and zoom out your pipeline, and you can also enable full screen. So let's enable full screen mode here to be more comfortable. Now, we can also see that the pipeline manager shows more details about things that we should be paying attention to. For example, in production, I have a manual task that is pending. So let's quickly take care of that now before moving our changes later, so we don't get blocked when doing that. Awesome. So we have completed the manual task now, and we see that another deployment is being triggered. Why is that? This is because I have an automation rule configured to automatically back promote changes to the hotfix environment. All right, let's move the user story that contains the flow that Ankita just created into UAT. So I already flagged the user story as ready to promote. It's appearing now on my pipeline manager. But what is also great is that I can use this toggle to understand what other changes are on my environment. For example, I see that I have many more user stories in the one that I might have to move later. But right now, we're only concerned about the user story that has the flow. So let's select that one. And what's also great here is that I can see what is the metadata included directly from the pipeline manager. This is great because it's a huge time saver. I no longer need to switch screens or navigate away to find that out. So now that we have selected user story, let's promote and deploy our changes to UAT. And while the deployment runs, let me talk a little bit about another major challenge, which is keeping environments in sync. As we can see, this environment is out of sync. And that happens because, or the pipeline manager shows me that because I have a rule configured at my pipeline level that helps me identify and quickly find out based on different criteria that I can set up. What are the critical user stories that I need to be focused on, But besides this new notification system, what you can also use is the mass bug promote option. So if you have many lower dev environments that you need to synchronize at the same time, you can go into the mass bug promote option here, select UAT as a source, for example, and the pipeline manager will show me all the user stories that are waiting there for me to be picked up. Something else that is important is understanding what's going to happen when deploying changes. Are there any quality gates or automations that may be triggered by my deployment? So to provide visibility into this, we also included icons to indicate if there are active quality gates or automations in an environment. As we can see here, I have a bunch of quality gates. I have Apex tests, PMD, compliance scans, but what I don't have or I'm realizing now, is I don't have a robotic test to test my agent responses and make sure that the agent now works well. So let's use Pipeline Builder to quickly set up a quality gate to test my agent and avoid any other issues. All right. So let's move to the Pipeline Builder section here. Awesome. All right. So Pipeline Builder is the one-stop shop for creating, maintaining, and extending pipelines in Copado. So it simplifies pipeline maintenance. It provides a centralized setup experience that enables release managers to add environments or remove environments, to check the status of their credentials, to manage their quality gates and automations and more. So for example, what I can see here is I can see the status of the credentials assigned to my environments, and I can also add or remove environments. I also have a full screen mode that I can toggle on. Next, on the automation sections, I can see and manage all the automation rules for my pipelines. For example, we can see that we have against hotfix the back promotion automation rule that triggered before we went after we completed a manual task. So I always have my hotfix environment in sync. And in the quality gate section, I can see that all the quality gates configured in this pipeline. For example, I see my Apex test, BMD, and other quality gates that I have configured. Now, what I want to do is configure a quality gate for robotic testing. So I can test that my agent responses are accurate. So I will select that. And I want this quality gate to run after deployment. So once the agent is deployed to production, this quality gate should run. What I will do next is select here what I want the test to be picked up from. So I want the test link to my user story to be picked up and executed by this quality gate. Also, I will add a filter here. This is important because I want to make sure that every time I deploy a Agentforce component, this quality gate run. So that's what I will do. I will say, if the name of the components contains AI, I want this quality gate to run. And finally, what I will do here is set up the settings that contains my authentication details and more for Copado robotic test. All right, so now my quality gate is configured. I can safely move my changes to production and make sure that the agent works well this time. Awesome. So now let's move into the next one and see how we are moving changes to production, including the quality gate which has configured. All right. So before releasing changes, let's see if that quality gate is actually configured. Now we can see this directly from the pipeline manager, right? So we have the quality gate here. That is awesome. We can release now with confidence that the agent will be tested. Now, before moving changes, or let's take a quick recap. So I have the user story here that has a flow, and I also have my other user story which contains the agent metadata, right? Let's quickly check this user story. We haven't seen this one before. I would like to highlight a few things here. So the first thing is I have a robotic test deployment step that will enable Agentforce in production. That will spare me the hassle of having to enable Agentforce manually, and it will do it automatically. And secondly, we have here is a robotic testing step or test. So this test is the one that will be picked up by the quality gate later on. I will double check all the metadata that I have on my user story. So we see that we have the route to ESA flow that Ankit affects before, but I also see I have the GenAI plugin, the functions, so the actions, the topics, and so on. Okay, so now let's promote and deploy both user stories to production. We're moving the entire agent with all the metadata. And let's double check that promotion to see if all the steps are actually there, right? So first, Copado will create that promotion. It will merge changes. I see now that I have an enable Agentforce step in production. That is a robotic test that will automatically, enable Agentforce. I have the deployment, and now I see that I have a quality gate running at the end, right? So as a recap, by using Pipeline Manager and Pipeline Builder, I could quickly diagnose issues. I was able to unblock my pipeline, seamlessly orchestrate deployments, and not only move my changes, but also set up quality gates to enforce standards and avoid issues, and leverage automations to avoid manual work and keep my environment in sync. So Cynthia, now over to you to walk us through how that quality gate actually tests the agent. And don't forget to check out the post that Katie is sharing on the chat.
Great, thank you, Ivan. So Okay. Thank you. So before showing you how this quality gate is testing the service agent, let's talk about how Copado supports Coral Cloud in their Agentforce testing. To trust your Agentforce, you need a multi-layered approach to validation. And at Copado, we spent years in the automation space, and we believe quality AI requires 3 layers of trust: human-centric exploration, robotic end-to-end automation, and independent agent verification, where one agent keeps another honest. Traditional automation falls short when dealing with non-deterministic responses. So with robotic testing, we go beyond usual automation to evaluate things like code accuracy, coherence, context precision. And this is how Copado is redefining what it means to test AI responsibly, combining human insight, robotic rigor, and intelligent oversight to ensure that every Agentforce release is trusted. So back to the after deployment quality gate that Ivan just set up, let me show you exactly what kind of tests we are running behind the scenes, how this test looks like, and how robotic testing is running this end-to-end validation that we were just mentioning. So just like in any other system, robotic testing allows you to build robust test automation that can run at scale. In this case that we have here, we are testing a full Agentforce flow. We ask the service agent to perform a real-world task, in this example, to make a reservation with the provided customer details, but we are not stopping there. After checking that the agent confirms the reservation is done and give us the reservation number, this test is connecting now with our proper Coral Cloud instance and validating that the agent has correctly created the reservation with the right reservation code. So for that, we check that the agent has created booking record, that the booking record has all the details in place, and we see reservation details, reservation number, and also the customer information correctly registered. And as we can see here, this test has successfully passed now, and everything is working correctly. Now, and as we were mentioning before, on top of that functional testing, we also enable our users to test how the agent communicates. That is crucial for these non-deterministic results. So with robotic testing, you can validate the quality and the consistency of the agent's responses, checking for things like similarity, relevance, and context understanding. And in this second demo, we focus on the very beginning of the agent conversation. We are initiating our service agent chat and validating the initial responses, making sure the agent asks for the right information, like the email address in this case, and that it responds consistently every time a new customer starts the chat. We are checking the similarity levels across different runs to catch any variations or drift in how the agent is behaving. This layer of validation adds confidence that your agent is not only functional, but also trustworthy and reliable in its communications. Now that we have seen how we can deliver faster with confidence thanks to Copado, let's take a step back and talk about the challenges that Salesforce teams often face with testing. So Salesforce teams want to move fast, but testing sometimes feels like running through quicksand, let's say. And manual testing takes too long, this automation breaks constantly, and no one has time to fix it all. But we are going to show you how with Copado Explorer and Test Agent, we are introducing an AI-native approach that meets testers where they are, whether just getting started with testing or they are experienced testers. And the result is that teams can go from chaos to confidence and releases move faster. Testers focus on the high-value scenarios, and Salesforce innovation isn't held back by broken testing practices. So let's take a look at how Copado empowers teams here. Our Test Agent is one of the expert DevOps agents available in the Copado AI platform, and it's also directly accessible from within robotic testing. The Test Agent is available exactly where users need it, fully integrated so they can enjoy a streamlined and efficient testing workflow. So let me show you how we do that. As many of you already know, the Copado AI platform is organized around the concept of the workspaces. Workspaces are shared spaces where teams can collaborate, upload documents, and share knowledge. And you can see in the demo that from robotic testers, the robotic testing users can select any Copado AI workspace they have access to and continue an existing conversation or start a new one. And the beauty is that everything is synced. Any new chat they create from robotic testing will also be available in the AI platform. But here's the key. When they start a conversation from robotic testing, the agent automatically pulls in all the workspace document knowledge. So if a QA team has uploaded best practices, naming conventions, or test kit guidelines, the agent will use that context to help users build tests that follow all those rules automatically. Continuing on our test staging capabilities, we know that analyzing long and complex test executions is one of the most time-consuming and frustrating parts of the testing process. And that's why at Copado, we constantly look for ways to reduce that burden and help our users succeed by simplifying the most critical and complex parts of the testing workflow, like it is test maintenance and execution analysis. So today, our test agent is already capable of analyzing execution runs, providing a detailed breakdown of each error, and giving recommendations on how to resolve them, so users can even report a bug on the spot. But now we are taking this one step further. And very soon, users won't just get recommendations from the agent, they'll be able to ask the agent to fix the test directly. So if the agent detects that the error comes from a test case that needs to be updated, you will be able to access the test job, open the file, apply the changes, and update the test without the user having to leave the screen or switch tools. They can just simply say to the agent, go ahead and fix it for me, and the agent will take care of it. As you can imagine, this is a huge step forward in helping our users work more efficiently and improve their daily routines. And more importantly, it enables also business and less technical users to participate in this stage of the testing process without the needing of deep expertise in test automation. So now, as you can see, the agent fixed the test and now it's running properly. Okay, now we want to take a look at Copado Explorer. That is a great tool to support testing practices for manual testing, user acceptance testing, but also for documentation and, of course, for team enablement purposes. Following the Coral Cloud's Agentforce use case, let's move to this human-centric exploration. Copado Explorer is a powerful tool that allows teams to interact with their agents in a hands-on way. You can manually explore the functionalities, record every step of the interaction, and annotate anything important along the way, whether it is a highlight, a concern, a pattern, a potential bug, a comment, or any information for the training material. In this example, we're going to see how a business user can quickly create a structured document showing how to interact with the agent, what to expect, what kind of information is relevant to check in the responses, and what behaviors are considered correct or suspicious. It helps teams align around what good looks like for the agent, making sure that everyone understands how it should behave and what needs to be validated, not just technically, but from a business point of view. So Copado Explorer is obviously a perfect tool for user acceptance testing, but it's also perfect for documenting business processes, capturing training materials, or creating internal enablement content in a way that is visual, that is collaborative, and really easy to share across the teams. So in this first part, we just see how users can explore the agent behavior step by step, recording each interaction and annotating key observations that are relevant for the team. Now, we're going to see how we end this exploration, and let's check how to create a document out of this. This is the exploration summary that is immediately available after ending our explorations. And this is where the user can review the register steps, revisit the conversation flow, and enrich the documentation by adding new comments or editing existing ones. And the best part is that once everything is ready, they can generate a full documentation file with just one click. And they can not only download the exploration as a document, they can also download the whole video for training and enablement purposes. So Copado's project is not just about discovering issues, it's about capturing knowledge and making it reusable across the teams. Okay, so now that we have checked that the service agent is working properly and the test passed, and we have generated documentation for internal knowledge, let's get back to Ankita.
Thank you, Cynthia. So we understand that release managers find it quite tedious and time-consuming to create the release notes from scratch for all the user stories to gather all the information. Now that our service agent user story has been successfully tested and is ready, now is the time to create the release notes for it, but not manually, but with our release agent. So we can give Ivan his precious time back. You're welcome, Ivan. So I again come back to Slack. Let me full screen. Select my release agent, and I'm simply asking it to create the release notes by giving the user story reference number, and that's all it takes. So it takes some time to analyze the user story, my release notes templates, and if you notice that I am still on my project channel in Slack where my team is already working together, and my release notes are ready here. And now I can ask it to make further changes or just simply copy paste from here. So working with Copado AI agent and with the collaboration of the team, we were able to convert the day's journey into the hour's journey. And with this, I give it back to you, David.
Thank you very much, Ankita, Cynthia, Ivan. This was amazing. And the great thing is that Coral Cloud Resort can now, the team out there can feel at peace with the Agentforce agent that they planned, built, tested, released, and operate thanks to the Copado DevOps platform. They can now feel confident this summer season that they're going to be able to meet the demand that they have with all the tourists coming in. Because as a tourist, the last thing you want is, if you arrive at midnight, is to have to deal with having to contact someone. But with the Agentforce agent that's available 24/7 and that has been tested thoroughly, you want to make sure that that's a flawless experience, and Coral Cloud Resort can successfully meet their customer demands. Now, all these capabilities that we've seen today, they are available for releasing Agentforce agents and as well any Salesforce application. So you can ask questions about the metadata like we saw with Ankita, about your existing flows, about your existing Apex classes. You can also create user stories using Slack without switching context. So if you're having a discussion about a bug that appeared in production or a feature that you're brainstorming, you can quickly get started with adding that to the sprint. And additionally, with the pipeline manager that Ivan showed us, you can orchestrate all these user stories across the pipeline and make sure that you have all the quality gates in place for testing your releases. And additionally, making sure with the pipeline builder that you can go ahead and configure all the different settings for your pipeline. And additionally, with the capability Cynthia showed us about Copado robotic testing and also Copado Explorer, you can see that we cover both being able to make sure we test our agents and our Salesforce applications automatically, constantly, all the time. But also with Copado Explorer, it means that those user acceptance testers or business users, as they are exploring and testing those capabilities, they can easily report the findings to the development team. So that's increasing collaboration between the business users and the technical users. So that's really amazing. And finally, with the release notes, many of you can identify, how much energy it takes to write those release notes from scratch. So if you can leverage the release agent to help you and write those release notes automatically, that's already a big time saver. And as you can see on this slide, the whole goal with all these capabilities is that your teams can deliver maximum value with all the innovation and all the applications and functionality that you're building on the Salesforce platform. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you can make your work successful and also get back home in time for dinner. And that's our goal, to make release days obsolete so that even every day is a release day and you can feel confident working and releasing all the different capabilities that the team is building. And so by using Copado, you get multiple benefits, including the 20% productivity savings, 34 times more test coverage, 46% increase in Salesforce ROI, 20 times faster releases, 10 times faster testing. So when you put all these things together, this is all to make your teams deliver maximum value. So thank you very much for joining our webinar today and learning about all the new capabilities that are available on Copado that we announced at TDX. And a few of these are in beta, others are already GA and available for you to use. So definitely check out the latest versions of our packages so that you can leverage these capabilities.